So, நம்ம எல்லாம் ஸ்கூல்ல படிக்கும்போது 5th channel ஒரு question வரும். What are the essential factors for life living on this earth அப்படினு. ரொம்ப easy question, 1 mark, science. அப்பலாம் EVS கிடையாது, science. Can anybody tell me what you would have answered? Essential things for life. Air, water. And shelter. Sometimes people say shelter also. If we pose this question today to all of you, I think you will all add a 5th point. Bharat, I think millennials will answer that. Wi-Fi he's saying, but what is fundamental to Wi-Fi? Electricity, right? So you all agree that it's become the essential factor, illa? Anjad point vandu ellarum add பண்ணிட்டோம் நம்ம electricity. I think morning Mr. Raja touched upon it. It's become a very essential and important thing for life, electricity அப்படிங்கிறது. Last 2 days we have looked at various aspects, and I think morning session also very power packed session and lot of information. I was not there yesterday, and it's very nice that each session is looking at different aspect of electricity. I think there was one on renewable energy including solar and wind, there was one on governance, and the today morning session was on emerging trends, afternoon session morning was reimagining the sector. Adula I think there are 3 things that I would say so that you can take it back with you. First one is that ipo நம்ம பேசணும், it's important thing in life, and which means that we are in it for a long haul. It's not just about you and me, it's about our grandchildren and their grandchildren and for generations to come. And when you're talking about long haul, it's a long distance running, and I think people like Anupama, who's a marathon runner, will understand when you're doing a long distance running, there are 2 things which are important. One is you have to pace yourself. Some people will actually cut down their speed, because you cannot continue to run at the same speed that you do for a dash, for a marathon, for a long haul. So if you are going to want to use this electricity for generations to come, somewhere you have to pace yourself, you have to start conserving it. So that is why the importance of conservation. The second thing is, if you are in it for a long haul, you also have to adopt certain techniques. Like say in distance, they will say, I want to time my stride. I want to see how many strides I take in a minute. I want to reduce, I want to prolong, whatever. So there is that application of techniques which is equivalent to the efficiency part. So there are 2 things we are talking about, conservation and efficiency, which are very critical for a long haul when you are doing looking at a long-term perspective, not some knee-jerk reaction. The second point is that many of you here may be aware, today everybody is talking about sustainability. United Nations has come out with 17 goals on sustainable development goals. Number 7 is looking at energy. So the actual rule says that ensure access of, look at the adjectives they have, affordable, reliable, sustainable, and affordable, reliable, sustainable, and the last adjective is not clean, surprisingly, modern. So they are not just saying modern, and you can see the placement of the adjectives is very interesting. They put sustainable before modern, because whatever you are doing has to be sustainable. You have to be able to give it to people for a long period of time. I think that is where a lot of perspectives in the morning were also important. You know, how we will still continue to depend on coal and stuff like that. So the sustainability of any resource becomes very important. Therefore, the conservation and efficiency is very important. The third thing I want to bring, which people like living in India, particularly South Tamil people will relate to, is the concept of mindful consumption. இருக்குங்கிறதுக்காக எவ்வளவு கூட யூஸ் பண்ண முடியாது. You use what you need to use. There is a difference between need and want, right? I want something doesn't mean that I should use it. So there is a Eastern philosophy on mindful consumption, which is making a big comeback internationally. And it's very interesting. If you look at the statistics on where India is with respect to electricity consumption, we are somewhere far below. In terms of per capita or average consumption, we are far below. And now we are trying to come up, which is required for the quality of life. But then we have an opportunity here to redefine what is a sustainable consumption. Where do we want to go? Is it like I am getting everything, I will use whatever I want, or can I use it very judiciously? So these are the 3 reasons I would think that we need to look at conservation and efficiency very, very seriously. So we have put together a session today having a keynote speech as well as a very interesting panel with people who will connect with you. So I want to bring up this point that it's a consumer engagement, and here you are the consumers, you are the audience. So we will try to engage with you as much as possible. You all would have got a sheet now, so we are going to do some polling. We are going to ask you some questions. The panelists will try to answer those questions. The speakers and panelists will try to answer this question so that we make it very relevant and very engaging to you. So that's how we are going to start. So before that, one small point. So everybody is a consumer here, right? All of us are consumers here. And whether we are working in an industry or we are doing farming, whatever our occupation is, we remain a household consumer first. There is no household here which is unelectrified. Clear? Electricity irukku. So now India has gone somewhere, like everybody has electricity. So everybody first is a household consumer. Then you become a consumer of, say, industry, agriculture, whatever it is. So in the household sector, it is projected to increase, the consumption is projected to increase by 8 times in 2030. But where are we now? Adukku or chinna poll. Can you please, what you have to do is, உங்களுக்கு முன்னாடி கொடுத்திருக்கிற ஷீட்ல ஒரு QR code இருக்கு. எல்லார்கிட்டயும் ஸ்மார்ட்ஃபோன் இருக்கா? The smartphone you can either type that link or you just scan the QR code in your mobile phone and you can actually vote for the question and we will see your answer here, and there is no right or wrong. It's okay. We are all having fun together. Lunch போறதுக்கு முன்னாடி Saturday morning கொஞ்சம் என்ஜாய் பண்ணோம் இல்லையா? அதனால we will do something interesting here. Okay? என்ன சொல்றீங்க? கிஃப்டா? அது CAG. யார்? விஷ்ணு? விஷ்ணு? Okay. So the first question is, you must be seeing this on your screen. How much do you think households, okay, contribute to India's total electricity consumption? Very interesting. So we have 4 answers: greater than 50%, between 25 and 50, less than 25, and do not know. And there is nobody who's saying do not know. That's amazing. I think a big clap to the audience. Oh, there's somebody just now. Okay. Okay. So good. I think you're all there. You're all there. Wonderful. So we are at about 25 to 30. I think Tamil Nadu is at 30. Bharat or somebody can correct me. And Tamil Nadu's household contribution to total electricity consumption. Whereas all India level, it's about 24. And I think if you really look at the real data, it may be between 25 and 30. So that is how much households like yours and mine are contributing to the total electricity consumption in India, right? So which means that you and I have a big role to play in ensuring that this is used in an efficient manner and in a proper manner. So today what we will do is, we will hear different perspectives on what consumers can do, have done, opportunities, gaps in this area. So I would like to first introduce our keynote speaker and request him to talk. So we have Mr. Padu S. Padmanabhan, who is going to deliver the keynote speech today. We are really privileged to have him here. He's a very, very senior person having more than 4 decades of experience in the area of energy efficiency, energy access, and also clean energy. And interestingly, he has worn different hats. He's been a practitioner, he's been in the policy, he's been in implementing projects. So he's seen things from different lens and perspectives. Needless to say, he's a recipient of a lot of awards at the regional, national, and the international level. And he has been with World Bank, he's been with USAID, he's been with Academia and a research center in Saudi Arabia. And very interestingly, this was a tidbit I thought I should share with you, which is that he was involved in a project called Energy Conservation and Commercialization, which was the forerunner for BEE and what we call as the ECBC today, Energy Conservation and Building Code. So I think it will be very interesting to hear Mr. Padmanabhan on what he has to say on this topic, and when he finishes, we'll come back with the next question. Okay? Thank you so much. Sir, please. Over to you.
Many of the questions you could probably answer. I hope so. Taking a cue from my good friend Toyn, who spoke earlier, and he talked about the history of how wind power, grid-connected wind power began first in Europe and then spread all over the world. I think it will be interesting to look at how efficiency took root in India. And it really happened in the year 1964. At that time, the word energy efficiency was not well known. It was known as fuel efficiency. And for reasons that you would be surprised, much of the oil, or rather much of the coal that was being consumed in the country was being consumed in Mumbai, largely in the textile sector. So they had to get the coal from Bengal, Bihar, over the Western Ghats to Mumbai. And coal has limitations in the sense that you need a lot of storage area for coal. So the citizens of Mumbai came up in arms and said that, we should think of some alternative. At the same time, there were two refineries which had come up in Bombay. One was Esso and the other was Burma Shell. And both these refineries had excess of residual furnace oil, or what is known as LSHS, low sulfur heavy stock oil. So they had to dispose that off. So they said, why not we sell it to the industry? And industry said, well, we'll like to buy it if we know how to burn it, because we don't know the technology of burning it. And the National Institute of Fuel Efficiency Services of UK was invited by the Planning Commission of India to help Indian industry move from coal to oil. That's surprising. And in the process, NIFES also taught them how to be fuel efficient, because much of the efficiency really began with the industrial sector. And that's how, slowly but surely, an institutional arrangement for energy efficiency came into place in India. And I must say, this is in 64. So by the time the oil crisis took place in 73, we did have some kind of a embryonic energy efficiency or fuel efficiency set up in the country, largely with the oil companies and with organizations such as the National Productivity Council. So this was a bit on the history. And the first institutional arrangement for fuel efficiency or energy efficiency in the world, in a developing world at least, was the Petroleum Conservation Research Association, set up in 1974 and got into action immediately thereafter and continues to this day. I thought in the next 15 or 20 minutes, I'll take you through the concept of energy efficiency. It's, again, an American once said that energy efficiency is like motherhood and apple pie, or what you would like to call in Tamil as motherhood and chakra pongal. Nobody has a problem with it. Everyone likes it. No one will find fault with it. And that's very true. But having said that, it's probably the most underutilized, misunderstood energy resource one could think of. So I'd like to spend a little bit of time to demystify what energy efficiency is really all about. You see, when you look at the energy equation, you have a demand side and a supply side of the equation. And supply is always lockstep with demand, at least in theory. Many a times, demand is far ahead of supply, and then there is this gap, and we have power cuts and so on and so forth. But at least in theory, supply tries to keep up with demand. And we have done very well in India on the supply side, without any argument. From 1 gigawatt in 1950, we are something like 350 gigawatts of power generation capacity in the country. In terms of coal, we were just 5 to 8 million tons during the first 5-year plan. Today, we mine about 650 million tons, and so on and so forth. So we have done very well on the supply side. But on the demand side, we probably haven't done enough. Now, what I mean by saying not having done enough, if you take the city of Chennai for a moment as an example, and you say that there's an incremental increase in demand of 100 megawatts, let's say over a period of 1 to 2 years, then how do you meet this 100 megawatts? You could put up a unit in Ennur power plant for 100 megawatts. Anyone could do that and meet the demand. Or you could moderate the demand of 100 megawatts by having energy efficiency programs. If you think about it for a moment, putting up a power plant of 100 megawatts or a unit of 100 megawatts doesn't require any intelligence. It's not rocket science. You don't need an Einstein to do it. We have been doing it time and time immemorial. As I said, we have added 350 gigawatts. So we can very easily put up a 100 megawatt power plant. All it requires is the government, it requires the LCD board, it requires some finance, it requires a vendor like BHEL, and they can come together without consulting with the consumers and put up a 100 megawatt power plant. But if you have to save 100 megawatts of power, it requires the unified support of all the consumers, requires a number of programs, a number of decentralized programs. It requires a lot more effort, requires a lot more intelligence, it requires a lot more planning, it requires a lot more implementation, it requires a lot more monitoring. And that's one reason why energy efficiency is considered to be a little elusive, because it has to be very consultative, it has to be very decentralized, whereas energy supply is a centralized kind of a decision-making process. This truism was not even appreciated in the West very much until the IEA, the International Energy Agency, in 2005, when they did their research. You know, the IEA is a membership of 17 OECD countries, and they did some research on the impact of efficiency. And they found something very, very interesting. They found that energy efficiency in 11 of their countries, the large countries, the Japan, North America, and Europe, the amount of energy saved on account of efficiency, which they had estimated based on a methodology that they had actually developed, the amount of energy saved was much greater than the amount of energy that was generated by oil, coal, or nuclear. And they got up and took notice of that and said, wow, this is something we didn't realize. And they said, fuel efficiency or energy efficiency is not the fifth fuel, which they thought it was, after oil, coal, gas, nuclear. Then they said, energy efficiency is the fifth fuel, energy efficiency is the first fuel. And then they did the study in 2006, 2007, 2008. You go to the website, and I've been reviewing some of the reports. You know, energy efficiency continues to be the first fuel. Now, in parallel to this, the World Bank did an analysis in 2013-14, because there was a lot of pressure on the World Bank to do more on energy efficiency than what they had done in the past. And they found something very interesting too. They found that energy efficiency was saving more fuel and more energy than renewables in any particular year. So the amount of renewables we are putting into action on the ground in developed and developing countries globally was far less than how much of energy efficiency which was happening anyway due to market forces, due to consumer drives, whatever. So all of this has got energy efficiency kind of lot more importance. That today it is the energy which really is going to drive us into the 21st century. It is the bridge between a world dominated by coal and oil and fossil fuel to a world dominated by renewables of the future. So efficiency could well be the bridge. Coming to India, what does efficiency mean both at a macro level as well as the unit level? And I'll be very brief about this. At the macro level, obviously, the point which has been made and will continue to be made is that efficiency probably could be a strategy to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions. And certainly it will. In fact, study after studies, UNFCCC studies have shown that of all the measures required to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, the most cost-effective short-term measure is energy efficiency. So if you have to bring down parts per million of carbon in the environment from 406, is what the latest report says, to something below 400, then obviously efficiency has to be the pincer edge of any strategy. So that is almost given. The second important point from the Indian context, apart from the climate change and mitigation aspect, is that efficiency could be a very important strategy to impact fiscal deficit. The fiscal deficit in this country is rather high. It's basically robbing the government and the government exchequer of money which they would otherwise use for the productive sectors such as education and health. The power sector, because of the subsidy issues and so on and so forth, has actually played a role in impacting the fiscal deficit of the country. And to the extent that efficiency can reduce losses, and this could be a very, very sound basis by which one views efficiency. But when you come down to the micro level, consumers, which is what we are all really talking about, how much energy can we save? Obviously, this is a slightly mixed audience, but much of you all are from the urban sector, urban household sector, the residential sector. So I will focus my comments basically to this particular sector, although it has its application in the industrial sector, to transport and agriculture, but I'll focus on the urban sector. The question is, in the urban sector, if you ask anyone, why do you do efficiency? And he may look at you and say, well, it could save me some money. And true, if you look at how much a common household spends on electricity and transport fuel, as well as cooking gas, it could be anything between 15,000 rupees a year to 1 lakh, maybe more than 1 lakh, maybe even 2 lakhs in the higher income households. But 15, 20,000 rupees is basically what they would spend. And one could save 5, 10, 15%. Actually, the many of the analysis show that they can save anything between 25% to 30% very quite easily. But is that the reason for efficiency? That's the question you need to ask. Today, saving energy of the kind I'm talking about is passé. It's not important. It is important. Sorry, I'm not saying it's not important. It's important, but that's not the only reason. It's not climate. That's not the only reason. It is the co-benefits of efficiency which are now coming to the fore. Today, the impact efficiency will have on health, on improving the indoor air quality, is getting to be extremely important. The impact for industry, that efficiency is a bottom line issue, is well known. You don't go to Indian industry and tell them that you're going to save energy. Energy is very costly. Indian industry spends more on energy than anyone else does. But if I could make the connection between efficiency and quality of product, and there's a direct connection there. So it is the co-benefits of efficiency which are now coming to the fore. The green building movement in the US is not moving forward just based on the energy and water savings and so on. It's going forward on account of the health savings, the productivity savings, the reduction in absenteeism in offices which have green features, etc., etc. So I thought I'll quickly make that point. Now coming down to what are the measures? Now I'm sure we'll hear some more in the panel, and the panel will have experts who know these issues rather well. But nonetheless, it's important. What I would call as the housekeeping or the first aid or the low cost, no cost measures. Oftentimes, efficiency is associated with these kinds of measures, but you'll very quickly realize that efficiency has a connotation beyond these low cost measures. But you have to start somewhere, and things like putting off lights when you're not in the room, not using fans when no one is there, raising the level of the thermostat, etc., etc. I mean, these are common measures, and housewives can also come out with a whole series of measures. I must say that in 1974, when I was part of a small expert group, and I was very young at that time, just graduated from college, and I was part of this Petroleum Conservation Research Association, we went in for a national campaign on how to save fuel in kitchens and how to save fuel in vehicles and so on. And the measures that we talked about those days are similar today. I mean, they don't change. It's like the laws of physics. They always remain there wherever you are. So these are the measures that you need to follow. But if you were to drill down a little deeper, then you realize that there are technologies today which can help you to save more. What are these technologies? The LED technology is well known. We have associated efficiency with LEDs and lighting, and that's a good start. But efficiency is much beyond just lighting. But just on the subject of LEDs, you get 75% savings in energy. Return on investment is less than a year, probably in 6 months. EESL has done a great job in aggregating the market and reducing the price of LEDs to 65 or 70 rupees. So for a 9-watt LED. So this is almost mandatory now, I think, that everyone should have LEDs at homes. Similarly, on air conditioners, today there are air conditioners with coefficient of performance 4.5, 5, 5.5, 6. One can use them as against the older type of air conditioners. You have electric heaters, which are far more efficient. You have microwaves, etc., etc. So these are measures which certainly ought to be encouraged, and there are financing implications too. But going beyond measures, let's look at systems. I think the advent of smart meters and smart grids is going to give a fillip to efficiency as never before. I think one would probably need to discuss a lot more. I don't have the time to discuss it here, but I'm sure the panelists will bring up this point. The entire issue of demand response. As I said earlier in my brief introduction, that we have done a lot on the supply side, which requires little or no intelligence. Sorry to say that, but supply is basically a brainless way of handling the energy situation. But on the demand side, we have done far less. And one of the ways is, how do you get utilities and discoms to engage more with consumers than before? And there are ideas too, which were discussed earlier. But one thought might be, when I recall Pepco, which was a utility in Washington, actually paid me, a consumer, money for saving energy. I think that time has come now where utilities will find it in their self-interest to pay consumers to change the pattern of energy use. And if you use that as a fundamental premise, then a lot of opportunities open up. Peak and off-peak tariff is basically that. You encourage consumers to use energy at a time when the tariffs are low. So at that time, you could save money. Actually the utility makes money anyway, because otherwise they would have to buy power from elsewhere at a higher price. So the entire issue of incentives, to incentivize customers to moderate their behavior, is one powerful way. The entire basis by which financial institutions can finance efficiency is another way. So there are various financing modalities in efficiency. And that is a subject which is now being looked at by energy service companies and water energy service companies and so on. I would like to make and probably end with one particular observation, which is very germane to the Indian situation, probably more here than in many other countries. And we haven't talked much about it, at least I didn't hear much about it. Maybe you all talked about it yesterday. And that is the entire issue of water and water management and water conservation. Makes eminent sense in Chennai and eminent sense in many parts of our country. Now, water and energy are two sides of the same equation, of the same coin. If you save water, you save energy. And if you save energy, you save water. You need water for energy and you need energy for water. I think that's a very important distinction. And it's not only true in urban settings, particularly true in agriculture, where a lot of water is used for irrigation and much of the water can be reduced through efficient irrigation practices such as drip irrigation, and what my friend Toyn has been working on in Orville is precision irrigation, where you send the right amount of water for a crop, no more, no less, basically by monitoring certain parameters. But in the process, you also save a lot of energy. And that energy is important because you connect it up with the other point I made, the entire issue of fiscal deficit. Much of that energy is electricity. That LCD is given at a cheap price to the farmers for socio-economic reason, and whatever energy you can save is a reduction in cross subsidy, and more important, a reduction in direct subsidy, and to that extent you do impact the financial position of the state. So you see the connection, how efficiency has a huge impact right across the value chain. This is one point. The second point is, even the word efficiency is now getting to be passé. People feel that efficiency does not describe exactly what needs to be really done on the ground. The word now is energy productivity. I'll give you a very, very simple example which will tell you what I mean. You have a paper industry. I'm just talking about some industry, let's say a paper industry. And that paper industry makes ordinary cardboard. And that cardboard has a certain value in the market. Now you say that I'm going to introduce energy efficiency measures in my factory, and you introduce measures in the boiler house, in the digester house, in the paper machine. You bring down the steam consumption per ton of paper, or the steam consumption per rupee of value added, because that paper is sold, right? Now, a productivity strategy would be very different. The productivity strategy would say, what is the maximum value I get for every kilogram of coal or oil that I consume? Now, if that industry were to go to, let us say, a specialty paper manufacturer, the value that they get out of every kg of oil that they consume in the boiler is much more. In other words, the energy productivity has gone up. So if the moment you look at energy productivity as your indicator of performance, then you realize, at least in the value-added sector, that efficiency becomes a subset. That efficiency looks at how energy is used. Productivity looks at how energy is used to produce value, and you need to produce value to society. So I just wanted to leave that thought behind, that today the concept of efficiency is now beginning to be seen in a much broader context. And if you bring in climate change here, then efficiency in the context of what is the least impact on the environment. So that gives you another dimension. Anyway, just to sum up, what I did basically say is that we need to move to the demand side of the equation. We need to go for what is known as integrated resource planning. What does integrated resource planning mean? You have generation, you have transmission and distribution, you have end use. Much of the focus, as I said, has been on generation planning, but now you need to look at things simultaneously. You need to look at things symmetrically, so that every rupee that you spend on generation is compared with every rupee you spend on transmission and distribution is compared to a rupee you spend on end use, and where you get the maximum bang for the buck, that's where you make your investment. And that's how, when regulatory commissions, for instance, in the US, when they're approached by the utilities to put up a power plant of, let's say, 500 megawatts, the first question they ask is this the least cost option? Can you get the 500 megawatts through demand resource planning to efficiency, etc.? And if you can do it, then bring us those plans, because we want to compare the cost of doing that as against putting up a power plant. So integrated resource planning is now the norm. We have not followed IRP in this country. I think we need to look at that issue. So that is the point I want to make. Efficiency is certainly the first fuel. It's not the second, it's not the third fuel, it's the first fuel. It's what is really actually delivering goods as we speak, and will continue to deliver goods. I think that's very, very important point. So with these two let me conclude, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
How much energy, or actually you should say electricity, can you save in a typical urban home through simple measures? இப்போ உங்களுக்கு 100 ரூபாய் பில், ஓகே 100 ரூபாய் அது தமிழ்நாடு ஐ திங்க் ஃப்ரீ, 1000 ரூபாய் பில் வருது அப்படின்னா எவ்வளோ, less than 15%, 20 to 25%, 30 to 50%, இல்லை you don't have any idea? Okay, I'll ask Mr. Padmanabhan to only comment on this.
Well, all are correct answers. If you're in a household which is efficient already, then you can't save very much, so less than 15. But typically, based on studies which have been done in the country and elsewhere, it's roughly around 20 to 25%. Now, in extreme cases where the household is extremely inefficient, where you put the lights on all the time and fan on, and you have a 70-watt fan as against a 30-watt fan, etc., then it could be as much as 50%, depending on what position you are. But clearly, in most households, 20 to 25 or 25 to 30% is possible right away.
I think we homework to do when you go home today. Okay, next month bill every korikkiradunna. But kind of segueing on that question, I have a next one to ask you. He also talked about the low-hanging fruits being low cost, no cost for certain things you can do at home. So, idhula enna question matter? No cost, absolutely no cost. செலவழிக்காமலே நம்மளால எவ்வளவு சேவ் பண்ண முடியுமா, இல்லை முடியவே முடியாதா? சும்மா சார் சொல்றாங்க சான்ஸே இல்லையா, இல்லை முடியுமா? எவ்வளோ முடியும்? முடியும், கம்மி எக்ஸ்டென்ட் முடியும், பட் நல்லாவே பண்ண முடியும், லைக் more than 25. No, முடியாது, இல்லை no idea. I'm very happy to see that there's nobody answering no. That's nice. Again, the answer is both the combination of A and B. Internationally, if you see, people have established, even with data, using smart meter data, they have established about 5% O power in all of those people. We are running a program in India. In fact, Chennai UCAG had done that. Vidyut Rakshakanu Bangalore, Madras la vandu மின்சாரத்தை சேமிப்போம் அப்படினு. So அதுல இருக்கிற data பாத்தீங்கன்னாக்க very interesting. We have more than 4,000 people in the program, in Chennai about 600 people. So we are seeing at least some 40 to 50% of the people first of all reducing. We don't know whether they are investing or no investing, but they are reducing. And the extent of reduction it's even goes very high. It can touch even 20-25%. That's the kind of data we are seeing, which is ground data, not chuma top down niti ayog illa. Idu ground consumer level data we are having, which is showing evidence that consumers can act, take some measures to bring down the consumption. Adopting two, one no cost, which is conservation. Rendavathu efficient appliances. So these are the two things that I want you to take back today. So now what we will do is we are going to have a panel discussion. The idea is to bring in different perspectives, experiences, gaps, challenges in adopting efficiency and conservation for consumers. So that is going to be the panel. So I have to warn you, the panel Vishnu we were discussing at home a couple of days before, and my family, my husband and my daughter asked me, I said I'm going to be moderating this panel. So my daughter gave me one look like this, God save the panelists. Okay, so I hope that is not going to be the case today, but I'm going to take the aside of audience today and say that the panelists will kind of answer to the questions that we are going to ask them, and respect our time in terms of standing between us and the lunch. But let me first introduce the panelists, and a big thanks to all of them, because in a gap of 1 week they have really taken the effort to come down here because they are passionate about it and they kind of want to contribute what they are doing in this area. And I have to tell you, they are all people who have really done excellent work in this area. And in no particular order, I should say in no particular bias, in alphabetical order, I am calling the panelists on stage today. So we have Abhishek Jain. A always wins. Come Abhishek. From Bijli Bachao, who got introduced in the last panel also. So Abhishek has a very interesting background. He likes to say that he's not an expert, but I think if you go through his website, the kind of information that he has demystified for consumers like you and me is phenomenal. So that is the work that he has done. He founded this website long time back because he wanted to answer some questions which he could not find the answers for. So it will be very interesting to hear his thoughts, of course aligned with some questions I will pose. Welcome Abhishek. So the next in line is Anupama. Welcome Anupama. As I mentioned, marathon runner, and I have to ask her later whether her attitude in sustainability led to marathon running or the other way around. And Anupama is an architect and she focuses on designing and constructing efficient homes. And she's founder of the company called Green Evolution. So we will have some questions for her. And thankfully, even though we had a replacement in a panel between Deepak and Bharat, the alphabetical order remains the same. So we invite Bharat now on stage. Bharat is heading the Energy and Governance Group at World Resource Institute, commonly called as WRI. Bharat is a lawyer. And again, he says he's not an expert, but I found that he's a wonderful guy to bounce and brainstorm because he has very out of the box and a very different perspective on looking at issues, which sometimes we get biased when we are so deep in the issue. So there we have Bharat, who's also represented consumer interest in international panel and incidentally used to be a core group of CAG. So that's the association. Welcome Bharat. Then we have Mr. Jayakumar and Vishnu. I don't know, both of you want to come or one of you from CAG, the host of the workshop. Why CAG is here is because they are doing a lot of excellent work with respect to consumer engagement, particularly in the area of efficiency and conservation. We had partnered with CAG also for one of our programs. So welcome Jayakumar and Vishnu. Last but not the least, and I think, okay, so we'll get started. We are going to have Mr. Ramesh from EESL join the panel. I think many of you will go and throng around him during the lunchtime because he's the man who's looking at financing, right? Giving you money for moving to efficient appliances. So we hope to have him join us soon. So I'll just lay the kind of structure for this panel. So what we are going to do is number question கேட்போம் audience கிட்ட. அவங்க என்ன ரெஸ்பாண்ட் பண்றாங்க அப்படிங்கறத panelists ஒவ்வொருத்தட்டே கேட்போம். You can respond aligned to that question so that it adds value to what people are looking for. What we will also do is we'll go for a second round because these people come with enormous experience. It will be very good to hear them on a second round as to what they have to add to the topic. But to ensure that we have both the rounds, I request all of you to limit your answers to 3 minutes. And what we will have is this paper here. Okay, so you are welcome to finish before 3 minutes, but if you are exceeding, kindly note this sign and please stop so that we have a chance to come back to you. That's the whole idea, not to limit you, but to come back to you. So we will start with a question for Abhishek. Actually, I think, a question for Abhishek. Okay, so what would you like to hear more, read more in the area of energy conservation and efficiency? So இப்போ உங்களுக்கு வந்திருக்கீங்க இந்த செஷன்ல உங்களுக்கு கொஞ்சம் இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் கிடைச்சிருக்கு. இது மாதிரி இன்னும் உங்களுக்கு என்ன இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் வேணும்? இப்போ சார் சொன்னது நம்ம பேச போறது பிராக்டிஸ் பண்ணணும்னாக்க அது ட்ரான்ஸ்லேட் ஃபார் யுவர் விஷயம் டோன்ட் வரி. ஸோ வாட் எல்ஸ் உங்களுக்கு வேற என்ன வேணும்? கேஸ் ஸ்டடி, அதாவது இப்போ வேற யார் என்ன பண்ணியிருக்காங்க எனக்கு அதை பத்தி தெரியணும், அது வேணுமா? ரிட்டர்ன் ஆன் இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட், இப்போ நான் எல்இடி பல்ப் வாங்குறேன், எனக்கு ரிட்டர்ன் நான் 300 ரூபா கொடுத்து வாங்குறேன் இல்லை 2000 rupees கொடுத்து வீடு ஃபுல்லாக மாற்றுறேன், எவ்வளோ நாளில் எனக்கு இந்த மணி ரெக்கவர் ஆகும்? விச் மீன்ஸ் தட் ஹவு மச் வில் ஐ சேவ் பர் மந்த் அண்ட் ஹவு மெனி மந்த்ஸ் வில் இட் டேக் ஃபார் மீ டு ரெக்கவர் தட் மணி. ஸோ அதுதான் ரிட்டர்ன் ஆஃப் இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட். மூணாவது என்னென்ன ஆப்ஷன் இருக்குது? இன்னைக்கு லைட்டிங்கில் நம்மளுக்கு எல்லாருக்கும் தெரியும் எல்இடி இருக்குது. ஹவு மெனி ஆஃப் அஸ் நோ சர்டன் திங்ஸ் லைக் சே ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் இன்வெர்டர் ஏசி என்னென்ன இருக்குது? இப்போ நான் எஃபிஷியன்ட் அப்ளையன்ஸ் போகிறதுக்கு ரெடியாக இருக்கேன். வாஷிங் மிஷினில் ட்ரையர் வருதுன்றாங்க, வாஷிங் மிஷினில் டிஃப்ரெண்ட் ரொட்டேட்டர் டெக்னாலஜி, அந்த டெக்னாலஜி, இந்த டெக்னாலஜி, எப்படி எனக்கு என்ன சூஸ் பண்ணுறது? டிஃப்ரெண்ட் டெக்னாலஜி ஆப்ஷனா அல்லது வெண்டர்ஸ் மார்க்கெட், யார் சப்ளை பண்ணுறா, எந்த கம்பெனி சப்ளை பண்ணுறாங்க, அனாலிசிஸ் இருக்கா, எப்படி நான் சூஸ் பண்ணுறது? சப்சிடி, வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட்லி, do you want to know information? ஏன்னா இந்த சப்சிடி இஸ் a very state kind of a thing. And இப்போ கர்நாடகாவில் ஒரு ஸ்கீம் ஹொசா விளக்கு அப்படின்னு இருக்கு, தமிழ்நாடு some equivalent scheme is there. Some of you are aware, some of you are not aware. So உங்களுக்கு என்ன ஸ்கீம் பத்தி ஸ்கீம் இருக்கா, சப்சிடி கிடைக்குமா எனக்கு அதுல அப்படின்னு தெரியணுமா? So those are the answers here, Abhishek. So it will be great for you to just look at them and talk about how people like you are able to bridge this gap, or what more we should do on educating consumers on these kind of things.
Thanks, Simati. So, what we have right now, I mean, I run a website called Bijli Bachao. And how we started it off was a long time back when I was setting up my house, my wife being an energy efficiency person. She was taking care of setting up the right things. And once we had set it up, we actually compared our house with all our neighbors, and we realized that we were at least 30 to 40% less as compared to all our neighbors. So that's when we started this website Bijli Bachao to share information. On our website, we have case studies, though very limited, just a few of mine and my friends' case studies. But we do have a very active forum where people engage with us, and they share their stories as well at times. So we do get to know about how people are benefiting from the information that we share.
So, Abhishek, one thing you can also comment on how the rest of the media, for example, like a regional audience,
Okay.
where do they get that information from? Or is it even available other than some websites like that? It will be interesting to hear your thoughts on that also.
I have not seen too many websites talking specially about energy efficiency and energy saving. There's a very limited information online as far as energy efficiency is concerned. We are probably the only one who is doing, and some more initiatives which are happening. But frankly speaking, I'm not aware of a lot of regional initiatives. The only one that I know of is your initiative, which is Vidyut Raksha, right, where you are doing some stuff. There are few happening in Gujarat that I know of, but they are very limited. But Bijli Bachao is there definitely online. We have a lot of case studies. We interact with a lot of consumers one on one and help them out in buying appliances, because see, when we talk about return on investment, it varies depending on the individual and their consumptions. If let's say a person is consuming a lot of high income group where electricity consumption is more, the return on investment is much faster as compared to someone who's consuming less. And in fact, because of cross subsidies, and that's what we discussed earlier, because of cross subsidies, the tariffs are so less that return on investment, actually time period of return on investment increases significantly. So ROI depends on individual and their electricity consumption on a day-to-day basis. Technology options, right now there are a lot of things which are there as far as saving electricity is concerned. I mean, I'm not sure how many people know about BLDC fans. In fact, that's one appliance which I try to focus a lot, because people are not aware that ceiling fans actually are the highest consumer of electricity in a household if you're not using an air conditioner. I mean, if you are using an air conditioner, then definitely that's the highest one. But imagine a simple 75 watt ceiling fan used for 12 hours, that will use 1 unit of electricity almost, right? And if say you have 5 fans, you're talking about 5 units in a day, right? So if you adopt a BLDC fan which is 60% efficient, you're cutting down 60% of that 5 unit. So definitely BLDC technology is impacting air conditioners, BLDC is impacting refrigerators, ceiling fans, and not just that, even washing machines and stuff like that. But definitely ceiling fans, refrigerators and ACs are a big segment for different technology options, right? And we talk about those different technology options on the website. A lot of people come to our website just to get that information. So when we started the initiative, we initially focused just on the behavioral aspect, but then we shifted to the technology options and efficiency, because behavioral changes can help you save 5 to 7%. But if you actually adopt efficient appliances, you can even reach up to 60% of a single appliance. So definitely different technology options, awareness is important to know which one is more efficient. Vendor and marketplace information. Vendors, I mean, I'm trying to understand what exactly do you mean by that.
People, sorry.
Who to go to
Yeah,
and
exactly.
get
Who to go to? Vendors, that's one tricky area because right now the market is so becoming so competitive that any appliance that you look for, you will find a lot of options and lot of vendors in there. Making a decision out of that is a little difficult. So, I mean, yeah,
3 minutes.
3 minutes up.
But
Okay.
please cover the last one.
So subsidies are. I haven't seen subsidies on energy efficient appliances, but I have seen a lot of programs by EESL which actually help reduce the cost of energy efficient appliances. They just do a bulk purchase and it helps in reduction of cost. In some distribution companies, especially the private ones which we see in Mumbai, there are similar initiatives going on by discoms which are very effective, which actually help you buy energy efficient appliances. But subsidies, I have not seen that. Bulk purchase is actually a good program.
Thank you, Abhishek. Very useful ones, but I think for organizations like ours and other people, it's a very good thing to know that there is a large gap in understanding the options available to switch to efficient appliances. I think that is an opportunity that we can all try to plug in. I think Abhishek was fairly clear. I don't think we need to translate or do anything else. So we will move on to the next question and the next panelist, which is Anupama. Yeah. Okay. So வீட்டில் இருப்போம் இப்போ எல்லாரும் பட் அந்த ஒர்க் ஷாப் போனோடனே ஒரு ஜோஷ் வந்துச்சு, ஒரு ரொம்ப இது வந்துச்சு. We have to transform our house to an energy efficient home அப்படின்னு we are all going back with the goal. இந்த வீடு வந்து மின்சாரத்தை சேமிக்கிற வீடாக இருக்கணும் அப்படின்னு. ஸோ எவ்வளோ இப்போ வந்து ஒரு வீடு கட்ட போறீங்க, அந்த காஸ்ட்டை கம்பேர் பண்ணும்போது எனர்ஜி எஃபிஷியன்ட் ஹோம் வேணும்னாக்க how much is it going to cost you more? Is it going to be about 10%? It's going to be more than 50% or between 10 and 50? Or you don't think, you don't know, you don't have any idea. So to Anupama, what I want to actually ask is not so much to reflect on the number per se, but I have a very basic question. That is it a luxury today? Yeah. To transform my house from a conventional home to an energy efficient home, which means that I'm talking about somewhere more than 50%. Or what is your experience and opinion on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Smriti. Okay, so we talked about appliances and systems. What I would do is go one step back. If you're building a new home, the first thing I would look at is the passive design, right? I mean, to cut down on the lights, you need to have adequate natural light coming inside your home. So where your windows are placed, how shaded is it in a city like Chennai, how much glass you have, because glass in Chennai is only going to, you've seen cars parked under the sun, right? What happens? It's like a greenhouse, right? So why would you use too much glass in a place like Chennai? So the first step, what I would do is look at how to cut down, increase the amount of natural light, shaded natural light that comes into your house, and to increase the natural ventilation in your house. How do you get in natural breeze? So you don't have to turn on the lights and fans and air conditioner. So the first step that I would do is bring down the cost of cooling. Okay, and I am able to do that in a very simple, thoughtful way by ensuring there is a natural breeze, looking at the orientation of your flat or your building, especially if you're building a new home, it's very easy to do. And the second is the kind of materials that you're using, right? If you look at brick and concrete, there's a thermal conductivity factor, they let in a lot of heat. So what we do is, and in Chennai, 40 to 50% of the heat is from the roof. So if you have a flat roof where you want to enjoy your terrace, how do you ensure you cut down that heat? So what we do is you can look at materials that are insulating. There is insulation that you can actually put on top of your concrete slabs that will reduce 50% of the heat that comes in. So that's the first step. And the kind of wall material, if you're building a new home, you have to demand the contractor or the builder to make sure your materials are insulated.
Does it come?
So what we do is we use hollow terracotta blocks, and those are larger blocks, and they have hollow cavities. It lets in half the amount of heat as regular bricks. Cost is the same as regular bricks today. Quality is much better because it's a machine-made product, so I know where it's coming from versus bricks from different kilns. So that is one way, and the cost. And one more thing we do, I think. We had talked about how mindfully you should conserve, right? So one thing is we try to cut down the use of additional material or resources that is not required. So there are ways that you can actually leave your wall exposed on the exterior. I mean, there's no need to plaster it and finish it and paint it. It's only the joints where water is coming through that you have to make sure it is sealed. So these are ways to reduce cost. And in a lot of our projects, we don't plaster the ceiling. If you're open to it, nobody's going to look up at the ceiling and say, oh, it's so nice and clean. And you save the cement, right? You save pollution from the manufacture of cement. So that's what we do. So we cut down resources in the civil construction, which means it actually brings down your civil construction cost. And these blocks I'm talking about are much larger blocks, so it saves the time of construction. So we try to bring in cost savings, and then we add on, Abhishek talked about BLDC fans. That is a mandate in all our projects. LED lights, of course. So the first step is to reduce the amount of heat that comes into your building by using, sensitive design and the right kind of materials. And then you make sure you have energy efficient fixtures, energy efficient appliances, and then power that by solar. So these are the three big steps. And as far as costing, from all our projects, it's about 5% more because we do use water-saving technologies. So that's what we're seeing as the cost.
That's
and
a good takeaway for us.
Yeah, and one more thing to answer your question on if it's a luxury. I mean, cost-wise, it's not really a luxury, but I think today it's a necessity.
Right.
I mean, you really have to move to this to be able to, we talked about occupant health and the, health of our planet, right? So that's
very nice to hear, and I think we've learned something very interesting today. So we move on to Bharat, and we have a question not directly related to Bharat's work, but as somebody who's working in this ecosystem. When I say ecosystem, it deals with practitioners, policy makers, everybody. So the question is, suppose after again being in the session today, you go home. What will motivate you to purchase an efficient appliance? Like the AC vaangano, you have a choice of buying a non-rated AC or a 3-star, 4-star, 5-star AC. What will motivate you? அதுக்கு ஏதாவது லோன் கிடைக்கணும் இல்ல டிஸ்கவுண்ட் வேணும் அல்லது I am very convinced that by buying a star rated AC I am contributing to the environment. And not only outside environment, in my own house. In the வீட்டுக்குள்ள air quality is improving. அதுவா அல்லது savings. இது போறதுனால எனக்கு month on month electricity bill குறைய போகுது. அதுவா அல்லது this is another interesting thing why I put the last one is at least when we are working with in Bangalore, we are running this program with children also. It's called a model school program where we talk to children about all these things, and we find that the pressure from children is very high. So வீட்ல வந்து இன்னைக்கு நாளைக்கு உங்க பொண்ணு உங்க பையனும் வந்து அப்பா கண்டிப்பா எனக்கு வந்து இந்த ஃபேன் ரூம்ல மாத்தி தான் ஆகணும் அப்படின்னு சொன்னாக்க I think it is possible that the parents leave because a lot of things in consumer today trend is driven by children. So we have heard this answer, so don't think it's a kind of a stupid thing. And if you are somebody doing it, feel proud to say it. Because the future belongs to the generation, the children. So we should be proud to listen to them and do what they are asking us to do. So, but Bharat, to you, the question would be to actually comment from our ecosystem, looking at various players in this sector of electricity. How do you think each one of us can contribute or motivate people in switching to EE?
Okay. Thank you. I'm stepping in for my colleague, so I'm going to try and answer this slightly differently. I think this is just identifying projected cost savings. I think is quite straightforward. We are always told Indian consumers are price conscious. So anything, options of pay more or pay less, we always pick the pay less option. That's a sort of standard thing, and I'm not surprised by this. I would sort of want to connect this question to the other two questions you had. And I think we have sort of broadly four barriers that need to be addressed cumulatively. The first is what Abhishek spoke about, information. I think the challenge really is that we can't trust the information. You know, there's a lot of advertisements, a lot of companies promoting their products. We don't know how to trust that information. So the lack, it's not just the lack of information, it's the lack of credible, objective, trustworthy information. That needs to be addressed, and that's where I think consumer groups and ECCs and so on, this is the role that you could be playing, sifting through the advertisements and so on, but actually creating some kind of quality marking of information, because that's going to be crucial. The second is, I think, the point Anupama spoke about. When we talk energy efficiency, we straight away talk about technologies and air conditioners and, you know, all these appliances. We have to take a step back, and we have to look at where this can actually you know, play a big role, and connecting it also to what Padhu said earlier about codes. And see, in other places, you know, in other parts of the world, energy efficiencies either had the codes, standards, that kind of approach, which in India we have not succeeded with implementing any code, any standard, because standards come with costs, and costs create opportunities for rent seeking, corruption. Even if you are a sort of honest, compliant person, then it becomes additional cost that consumers need to pay. So this question of what is the model that we need to follow in India? Is it a codes, compliance, that kind of an approach, or is it, let's say now recently we have in India something called the Indian Cooling Action Plan. The Cooling Action Plan again sort of starts with how to make energy efficient air conditioners. Now it's not a bad idea, but is that where you start, right? What about passive design and many of the issues that Anupama spoke to? So those are the two, information and then the sort of what's the approach. The third is costs. I mean, clearly, you know, projected cost savings is key, but with many of these energy efficient, or even if it's renewable energy, there's an upfront cost. So the projected cost saving is a great thing, you know, but what we all want is that savings to be realized. Somebody has to put that money first. And where is that money? And you know, I hope our ESL colleague will join us and talk to us beyond the, you know, the LED lights. You know, this was meant to be rolled out for various other projects as well, other appliances, you know, fans and air conditioners and pumps and so on. What is the success? What is the models there? Because finance does not exist. Honestly, as a consumer, you want to buy an energy efficient anything, you can't go and get finance from which bank is going to give you this, which, you know, no one is going to give you. And if you have to take a housing loan for this, you're paying very, very high interest rates. So finance, I would say finance doesn't exist. So this projected cost savings, while it's interesting and it's a motivator, it often cannot result in decisions. You're not going to be able to do it. And the sort of fourth challenge, and I think the sort of bigger one, is the fact that I think, again, many of the speakers in the morning session also talked about it, that energy efficiency is not a priority. It's not a priority for our government. It is not. It's not a priority for our utility, because utility will lose money. Why should they be bothered about it? It's not a priority. And government, I'll just give you an example of, you know, in the government of India, there is a Ministry of Power. Ministry of Power has a Bureau of Energy Efficiency. Now, Bureau of Energy Efficiency was looking for a partner in each state. So they wrote and asked Tamil Nadu Chief Secretary, who will be our counterpart? It came to Tangetco. Tangetco said, what is this energy efficiency? We are not interested. And they gave it to TEDA. TEDA, as you know, is the Renewable Energy Agency. TEDA looked at it and said, what is this? We don't want to do with it. They sent it to the Electrical Inspectorate. Right? Electrical Inspectorate's job is to verify the safety of equipment and so on. An inspector who's to certify lifts and whether lifts are safe for public use. Now that is the level of priority that the government has towards this. So no utility is interested, utility is not interested, the government is not interested. So who's going to do this, right? Consumers may, you know, obviously this is I think as Padhu sort of gave a very good example of, I mean, various examples of where this should be first fuel. I think the challenge has been that we have not been able to move it away from fifth fuel. It's still there and we need to move it to first fuel. And the people who can make this change are consumers. Because this is really cash back in your hands, provided we can address these first three problems.
Thank you, Bharat. little depressing, but the true reality that you're not going to get much help from the anywhere. So we will move on to the next question, which is for CAG. Um, so, as consumers, household consumers, you know platforms. Platform could be virtual, could be digital, it could be online, or it could be a meeting in your local electricity office, or it could be workshops like this. You know platforms where you can talk about the problems you have, billing, tariff, quality, supply, reliability, whatever it is. So, do you know of platforms? So, I was also very keen to know this because all of us, when we moved to a new city, which I did to Bangalore, initially it was very difficult, to know how the system works, where can I go, how do I find information. It takes a long time. Hopefully, in this age of information technology, it should be less, I hope, but I'm not sure. So, most of them are aware, Vishnu, and they are all okay. No surprises there. But I think if you open it to people walking around in Savira, maybe the
100% to.
okay. So there we'll have. There is some takeaway for CAG that you have to catch hold of the 18% of the people during the lunchtime. Okay. Now what I want to ask Jaykumar or Vishnu to comment is what platforms are available. If you can address just that question, Jaykumar, then we can have time to take some questions and move on to the second round.
ஸோ எல்லாருக்கும் வணக்கம். ஓகே, அஸ் அ கன்சியூமராக வந்து நமக்கு எந்த இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் வேணுனாலும் லாட் ஆஃப் பீப்புள் ஆர் ஃப்ரம் தமிழ்நாடு. ஸோ ஐ லைக் டு ஸ்பீக் இன் தமிழ். ஸோ கவர்மெண்ட் சைடில் இருந்தும் எதுவுமே பண்ணலன்னு சொல்ல முடியாது, சுத்தமாக எதுவும் பண்ணலன்னு சொல்ல முடியாது. அவங்களும் பண்ணிட்டு தான் இருக்காங்க. தேர் என்ன சொல்கிறது, எல்லா அவேர்னஸும் வந்து முடிஞ்ச அளவுக்கு அவங்க டிஜிட்டலாகவும் பண்ணிகிட்டு இருக்காங்க, நியூஸ் பேப்பர்ஸ் வாயிலாகவும் பண்ணிகிட்டு இருக்காங்க, சரிங்களா. ஸோ அது இல்லாமல் வேறு பிளாட்ஃபார்ம் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, ஸோ நம்ம தான் என்ஜிஓஸ். ஸோ என்ஜிஓஸ்னால் இப்போ நம்ம பண்ணிட்டு இருக்க இசிசி ஒரு பெரிய பிளாட்ஃபார்ம், மக்களுக்கு போய் சேருது அது மூலமாக. ஸோ கவர்மெண்ட்டும் அவங்க மூலமாக இனிஷியேட்டிவ்ஸ் எடுத்துகிட்டு தான் இருக்காங்க. எஸ், கண்டிப்பாக. நம்மளோட பில், நீங்கள் நம்ம வீட்டில் எலக்ட்ரிசிட்டி பில் இருக்கும் பார்த்தீங்களா, ஸோ பில்லை வந்து நம்ம அதே ஒரு பெரிய பிளாட்ஃபார்ம் தான். நமக்கும் அதுக்கும் என்ன சொல்கிறது, போர்டுக்கும் டைரெக்டாக ஒரு கான்டாக்ட் இருக்குது அப்படின்னா தட் இஸ் எலக்ட்ரிசிட்டி பில்ஸ் தான். ஸோ அந்த பில்லில் நீங்கள் எத்தனை பேர் படிச்சிருக்கோம், நம்ம ஒயிட் மீட்டர் கார்டாக இருக்கட்டும், இல்லை நம்ம ரிசீவ் பண்ணுற ரெசிப்டாக இருக்கட்டும். ஸோ அதில் பார்த்தீங்கனாலே சின்ன சின்ன டிப்ஸ், ஸோ நம்ம கன்சர்வேஷன் டிப்ஸ் இருக்கிறோம் இல்லைங்களா, நமக்கு யூசேஜ் இருக்கும்போது மட்டும் யூஸ் பண்ணணும், அந்த மாதிரி ரினியூவபிளுக்கு சேஞ்ச் ஆகணும், அந்த மாதிரி இருக்கணும், எனர்ஜி எஃபிஷியன்சி அப்ளைன்ஸ் யூஸ் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னு. ஸோ இந்த டிப்ஸ்லாம் ஆல்ரெடி அதில் இருக்குது. ஸோ அவங்களால எல்லாத்தையும் கொடுக்க முடியல, பட் ஒரு 5 டிப்ஸ் 10 டிப்ஸ் அந்த மாதிரி கொடுத்துருக்காங்க, இல்லைன்னா சொல்ல முடியாது. அது இல்லாமல் நியூஸ் பேப்பரில் வந்து ஒரு அவேர்னஸ் கொடுக்குறாங்க. ஸோ இந்த ஸ்டார் லேபிளிங் வருது, ப்ரோக்ராம் வருது அப்படின்னா, ஸோ அந்த ஸ்டார் லேபிளிங்கை பற்றி கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. பட் எல்லா நியூஸ் பேப்பர்லையும் வருதான்னு தெரியல, பட் அவங்க கொடுக்குறாங்க. அட்லீஸ்ட்
ப்ராப்ளம் இருந்தால் எடுத்துப்பாங்களா, அவங்க பில்ல ப்ராப்ளம் இருந்ததுனா ஈஸியாக
ஐம் நாட் கெட்டிங்
problem. If you have any problems
issues
and all, then can they approach directly?
That is to be approached in the section office.
Okay.
If they have any electricity issues, right? So அது வந்து நம்ம லோக்கல்ல இருக்க செக்ஷன் ஆஃபீஸ், ஏஏ ஆஃபீஸோ ஜி ஆஃபீஸோ.
Just to add to that, இன்னொரு பாயிண்ட் என்னன்னாக்கா சிடிஆர், ரோல் ஆஃப் சிடிஆர் அப்படின்னு இருக்கு. அது வந்து எலக்ட்ரிசிட்டி பில்லிலேயே
ஓகே. I thought only for conservation and efficiency. Okay.
So அது மூலமா வந்து I think the idea behind this whole thing is that are they aware that they need to do these things, என்னெல்லாம் ஸ்டெப்ஸ் இருக்கு, எப்படி பண்றது. ஸோ அதெல்லாம் தான் ஐ திங்க் அந்த ஏரியாவில் தான் அந்த பிளாட்ஃபார்ம்னு சொல்லும்போது நம்ம யோசிக்கணும். we should think about it. So I think through our initiative we are doing that. I think beyond that, I suppose government itself has grievance forums are available. Monthly, the local collector, they conduct
grievances day.
So those are things that I think are there. But the message that needs to go to the consumers, that the communication part of it is what is lacking. How do you communicate that particular thing?
Order to that, they are giving advertisement in newspapers about the grievances day, public hearing meetings. But as yesterday's session Pavitra mentioned, earlier it was like நல்ல ஃபெமிலியராக இருக்க நியூஸ் பேப்பர்ஸில் வந்துட்டு இருந்தது. ஸோ இப்போ பார்த்தீங்க அப்படின்னா, ஸோ நேற்று மீடியா அனாலிசிஸ் பார்த்துருந்தா தெரிஞ்சிருக்கும். ஸோ இப்போ வந்து நிறைய பேர் ரீச் ஆக மாட்டுது. ஸோ அது ஒரு மேஜர் ரீசன். ஓகே,
I just want to add to our practice initially. We conduct public grievances meetings in every point of section at least twice a year, and in division at least once a year. And apart from that, we have the CGRF. I think in Tamil Nadu, who's heading the CGRF here?
I'm a member.
The discount people? To be more transparent, there in Pondicherry we have a 3-member CGRF, which is independent body. So any consumer can approach the CGRF, and there is no involvement of department officials. The department officials are called up any time when public complaints are we have a very active Lieutenant Governor in Pondicherry. She has a portal where you can place your complaint, and immediately it is sent to our HOD through WhatsApp. So there is a WhatsApp link where all the head of the departments are linked to the Lieutenant Governor, and any complaint, be it street light, low voltage, no power, anything, within seconds it reaches the staff. So response is also quick because it comes from the Lieutenant Governor. So people are making use of it in a very effective manner, and it's quite effective in Pondicherry. And most of the time we see that out of now the complaints are coming now, hardly about 10 days. And each day when we go through the complaints, it is rectified within 24 hours. The next day we don't have it overlapping on the next day's complaints. So that is a very effective. Ownership of Pondicherry.
I just have 2 comments to make based on Abhishek's and Bharat's and the lady's comments, which I thought has implications for consumer action. One is the need for vendor rating. Vendor rating, whether it's BLDCs or whether it's LEDs, normally what is done is independent entities, largely consumer driven, are the ones who come out with this vendor rating list. Of course, the government of India has its Energy Star rating, but keeping that aside for a moment, in addition to that, this vendor rating is important. The Lighting Research Center, I'll give you a small example, in New York, actually plays this role in the United States. They rate all LED appliances as to how these LEDs perform. Now, we all know that LEDs are more efficient than compact fluorescent lamps, and certainly more efficient than incandescent. There's enough information and data. But do you know how do they actually perform in the field in terms of longevity, in terms of the energy savings? Are they really measuring up? There is enough evidence to show, and this is no reflection on EESL's Ujala program. I have great deal of respect for that. But there's enough evidence to show that under certain conditions, LEDs don't perform. Things such as power quality, the temperature in the driver, on-off operations, these all affect LEDs, and power factor affect LEDs. So this vendor rating will help us to understand exactly what it is. That is one point which is coming out very clearly. Can consumer action groups really help establish a vendor rating system? The second point is dissemination of information. See, the dissemination of information has been talked about in the house for a long time. This setting up of these centers of excellence as a means for both business transformation as well as dissemination of information is extremely important, and one can think of setting up a center of excellence here in Chennai, where one can reach out to consumers and give them the kind of information that is required. So these are the 2 things which...
Very valid, I think. Because one of the things which comes out now is I have moved to an LED bulb, I don't see the same. Many people have this problem. In fact, for many people, I don't know how many of you know of this word, rebound effect, right? There is increase. நான் வந்து கம்மியாக மின்சாரத்தை சேவிக்கிற பல்பு வாங்குறதுனால 24 hours நான் அணைக்க மாட்டேன். இப்போ இந்த I see it in hotels, not to blame this particular hotel. Oh, madam, it doesn't consume anything. It's okay, let it be on. But that doesn't work. You have to be very careful about something called the rebound effect. The effect, it's very, very established in all sectors, including electricity sector. And I think something like this objective, and what Bharat also talked about, that the information comes in has to be objective and not pushing any player of technology is the need of the hour. So we are at 1 now, and we were supposed to close at 1:15. But what I'm going to request the full audience here is to give us 15 minutes more time. Is that okay? 15 minutes. So what we will do is we'll take 3 minutes for each of the 4 panelists and 12 minutes. Then we will have about 10 minutes of question answers, because I'm sure you will have questions to ask our keynote speaker also, which we missed earlier, and some panelists. And then we will hand over for closing, whatever is available time. So I'll quickly go around. I do have some questions for each of you, but feel free to kind of pick up on other things. So for Abhishek, what I wanted to ask you was, you addressed a lot of things that you're able to give, but what do you think are still continue to remain the pain points for consumers today, and do you see that getting answered, like taking from the morning session by 2040 at least, if not by 2020?
Yeah, there are two big pain points which I see while interacting with consumers on Bijli Bachao. So, like lot of people, firstly, a lot of people come for the consumer grievance redressal, right? That's one aspect which is huge on our website, and people do not understand electricity bills, they do not understand tariffs, they feel that they are being overcharged, right? So that's one big area where we try to help based on whatever knowledge we have. But it's important for consumers to understand that there is a consumer grievance redressal forum which is there in every state with every discom. There is a electricity ombudsman which is there in every state regulatory electricity commission, right? So you have to follow a process. You have to first go to CGRF in your discom, and then if they are not able to resolve your queries, then you have to go to the ombudsman at your electricity regulatory commission. So that process has to be followed, but still, yeah, I mean, people are not aware of that, so they keep coming to us. We just try on whatever we can, but we then, if we are not able to help beyond, then we just forward them to CGRF. That's one big pain point. Second, another thing which is again coming out from this discussion, that people are not aware of technologies, people are not aware of vendors. I mean, the biggest concern that people have is with the reliability of the vendors itself. And that's one big area which is extremely difficult right now to address, because it requires a lot of investment to manage that. So those are the two big areas where we get a lot of queries on, and that's where we try to help on that.
Thanks, Abhishek. So moving on to Anupama, I had a question for you. So Anupama, if I missed the boat already by not constructing a home which was designed to take in light and fan, can I do something? I'm talking about retrofitting. What are the opportunities for retrofitting and still converting my home to an efficient home?
Yeah, retrofitting as far as the civil work itself, because you already have your windows, you already have your walls built, without demolition and closing windows or opening windows, that is a tough thing to do. One easy thing that we do a lot, because we do get this question a lot, if you have a flat roof, it's a concrete roof, you can actually add insulation. It's actually extruded polystyrene is what we use. These are rigid insulation boards. The U value is only 0.5, which means the thermal conductivity is very, very low. We are able to cut down 50% of the heat that comes in. So that is one easy, quick way. So on top of your slab, you just add these boards of insulation. They come in interlocking boards. Again, this is a technology or a product. I don't know how many people are familiar about. So the vendor, list of vendors would be something. So this is one easy way to add. On top of the insulation, you just finish it with a cement screed, or you can do a tile on top. Of course, there are these UV reflective coatings that you can put on walls, as well as on the roof, but the insulation works much better than a reflective coating, and it's much longer lasting. So that is one way as far as the civil work that you can retrofit. Other than that, I would just say, your lights and fans and the technology, solar, try to reduce your electricity consumption by the type of lights and fans and air conditioners, and add in renewable energy sources. Yeah.
So, Bharat, I know that you wanted to talk about some of the earlier points that was raised on, say, aspirations, utilities, and challenges.
I think we have to also look at energy efficiency in the context of India and India's development and the image India has of itself. So we've told, we all are aware that Indian consumers are very aspirational consumers. And it's not a bad thing, but we've seen how, when you, in Indian villages, when you start with electrification, what you hope is everyone has this romantic notion of lighting will lead to some improvement in livelihoods and so on. But usually after lights, the next thing is a cell phone charger and the third thing is a television. Now, and that is because it's a connection with the rest of India. The need not to, the feeling not to be left behind, and it's an important thing to keep in mind when we try and construct a design of energy efficiency in the broader Indian sort of system. Now, on the data will show that India's per capita electricity consumption is very low. So, governments, whether it's state government or national government, there is an active push to increase the per capita consumption, which means it's actually works against what we are all talking about. The desire today is that we should actually be consuming more electricity per individual, and that will help us become seen and perceived in the world as a developed, slightly more developed nation. So it's a very difficult situation for us to be able to locate ourselves. Now, add to it our own, in India itself, the way we have made wastage and inefficiency a status symbol. That you can actually, the more you can consume, the more you waste. We all know about this magnificent house in Bombay, which has a 60 or 70 lakh electricity bill per month. And we say, oh, that is, so there is a sort of strange way we think about where we want to head as a society. And the third part is also that if you think, and again, we have talked to many government officials and ministers and so on, if you close your eyes and say, okay, what does India in 2040 look like, developed India, usually the image that a lot of people share is a brightly lit up India at night. All the offices and malls and everything is running, bright lights. That's the vision, because that's what the rest of the world has done. You think of any of these big cities in the world, the first thing you think of is that all those offices and things, no one is there, but the lights are on. So night, yeah. So so it's a very difficult time for us to be thinking about energy efficiency and what it's going to mean in terms of imagining it in our country. So this is sort of the first point. The second is, I know I sort of I talked about how it's not priority for several people, but I feel there is an opportunity in looking at some of these non-traditional partners. And by that I mean, like we heard Anupama talk about how, now this is not an electricity conversation, it's a different conversation, it's a housing conversation, it's a shelter conversation. Similarly, as Padu brought up this very important link with water. So there's a non-traditional partner in the water sector. There's a non-traditional partner perhaps in the low-income housing sector. Non-traditional partners available in the health sector. And I think with this opportunity we need to explore a bit more, move energy efficiency out of electricity departments. It is not their responsibility. And why should it be their responsibility? It should become an all of government, all of society kind of thing. And looking at it really as, why shouldn't each department have an energy efficiency target, right? Of some kind, efficiency target, some kind. So whether you do it through your health policies or programs, whether you do it, so I think that we have to convert this limitation, which is a financial, commercial limitation that the utilities face today, we have to convert that into an opportunity. And I think that's very, we need to do that quickly, because we know there is so much excitement around renewables. And if the renewables gets ahead of this game, then we will be putting renewables, no doubt, but these renewables will be also powering inefficiencies. And so instead of right sizing it, so let's just say today we have 100 units of electricity building. Now you can think of a sort of future where that 100 units of electricity, which is currently getting whatever grid power, can, in one's view of 2040, can become 100% renewables. And so therefore 100 units of renewables, but perhaps it only needs 60 units, right? So why are we creating overcapacity? These are after all resources. So I think right sizing it and making the sequence, keeping, so even the renewable energy developers, renewable energy enthusiasts need to prioritize efficiency so that we get the right sizing done.
Thank you, Bharat. I think very valid takeaways for all of us here. So to CAG, my question is, you've been able to bring so many people here. It's a great achievement, I would say. Generally, what is your experience in making a consumer engage in issues related to electricity, whether it is renewable energy or it is governance or whatever it is, and it's not confined to this workshop, through various work that you are doing, as part of your general work that you are doing, what are the challenges that you face in making me understand that I have a role to play? Like Mr. Padmanabhan said, it's not just the supply. Turning the focus on me, what can I do? So what are your challenges, or if you have some good news to share that, oh, it's great, it works, this works, that's also fine, good to know.
So I think the idea is, as I said earlier, communicating. How do you communicate the same message to different audience in different ways? Yesterday Sandeep had come from Purpose, and he talked about how he used religious leaders to talk about the sun as a as a source of energy. It's got a religious thing, so that creates a positive thing. I think that level of communication and the way in which it is put across is what makes all the more difference. So in sense, like, we could talk about a puppet show, but that's a small task that we are talking about. But how do you communicate that particular energy efficiency idea in a very meaningful manner? At the end of the day, they talk to their parents about it, for example. I think that communication bit is how we have seen the scope of the work being put out in different ways. But at the same time, we are also conscious of how it kind of shapes behavior. I think the behavioral aspect of that work, in which if we are communicating, then the feedback to that particular communication in terms of behavioral change, does it have a part to play? So that's another way to look at it. So in terms of challenges, we are always constantly reshaping the way we want to look at communication. So it could be a media, it could be several ways in which we think about. In fact, Rasika was talking about markets the other day, yesterday. So I really thought that should have probably been, if I create a cartoon out of it, to see how markets function, how do players interact, how
It goes back to what Bharat said about different people coming together across the...
So the non-traditional forms of not communication but sector. I think the term that people want to communicate is, like Bharat said, sector coupling. That's what they term it nowadays. So that sector coupling is, how do you bring non-traditional industry to the part of this whole electricity work for, let's say, can we couple water with energy, water with transport? So how do we communicate those aspects and bring that? I always keep talking about how environment people don't communicate about electricity, for example. How electricity people don't talk about environment, for example. So how can those two communicate? So that challenge is what we are faced with in telling people how to do it.
Yeah. I think in this conversation, children have to be the targets, because today they are already consuming, by the way. If not, even if they are not directly paying.
Already doing awareness program for school children as well.
Yeah.
So
because even if they are not directly, they are not spending their money, they are influencing us to make spend. So it's very important to influence them. So that was wonderful to hear, and thank you so much, all of you. What we will do now is to open the floor for questions to Mr. Padmanabhan as well as to the panelists who will come here also.
When I look at housing today, or when I look at renting houses, I look at it as as a cell phone. It's a service. I'm not really concerned about the components that go into it, but more about what is my direct benefit. If it's like a cell phone, I have 48 hours of usage from that particular phone. So if it means that I can use the same amount of services from my house with lesser electricity, I'm sort of drawn to that. So rather than having sort of star ratings towards appliances which I may not necessarily sort of go out of the way to control or to buy, when it comes as a package service, that's something that as me as a future homeowner or a home rental which comes back to your rental economy, that's a crucial element in terms of getting the energy efficiency into our language. So that, yes, possibly. Yeah, so you have 24/7 electricity, so that's on a home rather.
I think that's a great idea because actually just from my experience we've got people who come to us and say, we have two options to homes. Can you come and take a look? Which is, so things we would look at is where the windows are placed, or is it does it have adequate natural light? So I think this is something, we get very few of these, but we do have seen people coming to ask us which one should we choose. So something like this would be ideal, rather than the appliances, of course.
So my question is to the CAG people. So I've lived in Chennai from 2006. Always lived in societies. I've never seen you guys coming to any society. So I feel like a apartment complex. Yeah, I think in some of the places we've lived in, there are 100 flats. If you were to come and make a pitch in each one, I think there's a significant awareness and things that can be done. It's just a suggestion, actually. A lot more available.
But if I can react to that, we recognize that, and in fact I've set up an NGO in Bangalore, which is called Altech Foundation, and we have a program called Watergy, where we actually go out and talk to different societies on water and energy savings. But more importantly, we also give professional education so that they are certified professionals in water and energy. So I think that's a need very much. On your point, sir, if I might say so, there's already this concept of energy as a service, and you have energy service companies and even West Coast water energy service companies, which is yet to come up in India in a very big in a way, but they actually go and manage the energy services and get paid for by the energy savings. So as a concept, it has been tried and tested, but it hasn't been done at scale. The problem, as I see it, is not that there are not enough ideas. There are several ideas. Both Abhishek and Bharat has come out with several ideas, and many more people have come out with ideas. The idea is, how do we take it up to scale? How do we really take it up so that it becomes a movement? Now, just one quick point. Bharat made this point that we need to now increase the per capita energy consumption. We are around 1,000 kilowatt hours per capita per year of consumption in the country, and the world average is about 2,200. The United States is around 16,000. The important point is that we can have a standard of living of Eastern Europe and probably a little bit of parts of Western Europe at about 2,500 kilowatt hours. We don't have to be 15,000 and 18,000 like the US, but we can at 2,000 or 2,500 hours have a very good standard of living. And the only way to do it is through energy efficiency. They waste energy out of a sense of affluence. We waste energy out of a sense of ignorance. But both waste energy. That's the point.
I'll just quickly introduce, I don't think he's a new face at all here. But Mr. Ramesh comes with about 2 decades of experience in the area of electricity, and he's an ISO certified climate change professional. It's a very interesting facet I learned about him, apart from his role in EESL, that he actually looks at the interface of how this efficiency translates in the new discussions on climate change. So what we will do, we have been actually doing some poll and asking panelists to respond to that. Yeah, we have 2 questions, and immediately we'll go on to you, and then we'll take the questions. So people are tired, or you can still take the poll quickly. Yeah, Even if you're not answering, I'll just put up the question there. Plenty of time. I don't know how many people will agree with that here, but let's see. So I think we had probably 2 questions for you, because everybody is interested in how to avail of your services. Yeah. Next. Okay, so we have the statistic that about 4 appliances, which is lights, fans, TVs, and refrigerator, they contribute to some percentage of your total consumption. உங்க வீட்ல வந்து light, TV, fan and refrigerator. இது நாலு வந்து எவ்வளவு percentage? 50, 80, 25 or you don't know? இது நாலு மட்டும் எடுத்தா 1000 ரூபாய் கட்டுறீங்கன்னாக்கா அதுல 50% இதுல வருதா 80% எவ்வளவு வருது? So this is one question we would like to ask the consumers and ask you to reflect. But this gives me the question that when people are changing like this, when they see that some appliance is contributing to about 80% of their consumption and they want to move to an efficient appliance, invariably you end up with a stock of second-hand appliance. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts on, and somebody else also brought it up in the morning, that what do you do with the second-hand thing coming back to the market. So that's the thing, so I'm kind of not exactly on this, but I wanted you to reflect on that if you think that's useful to hear about the stock of second-hand appliances, and especially when you're running program like the efficient refrigerators, like in Delhi, then what happens is you end up receiving in the second-hand market a lot of appliances which are still in good working condition, but the stock is accumulated there. So your perspective as somebody who's pushing efficient appliances, what is it about the stock of the second-hand appliances is something I want to ask you. Apart from reflecting on this statistic on how consumers can kind of leverage this to get onto the bandwagon of electrical efficiency. Thank you.
So, first of all, my apologies for coming late since I was traveling. So, and in this one, I think one important appliance is missing, which is air conditioner.
No, but this is from a paper which is done across the India. Share that with you.
Yeah, fine, but still, I just wanted to, because now that is going to contribute, much more actually in compared. Yeah, maybe a refrigerator and air conditioners, I think. Which is now operating, and of course TV also, but when compared to those two appliances, TV is little less energy intensive one. So, and for this one, I think your query is about how to manage this second-hand equipment, right? So, as far as ESL is concerned, anyway, we are running. Our core area is to implement energy efficient appliances, that is mainly for the domestic. So we are focusing on lights and fans and then air conditioners for the domestic sector, which we are doing through the DISCOM, and in fact Mr. Vivek is also there, where Puducherry is the pioneer in this one, where this efficient lighting program was started in 2015. So that was the first state or first UT to start this energy efficient lighting program. So so one way is that once we go with this energy efficient appliances, then the lifetime increases actually. So whereas in case of inefficient or the conventional things, so your the lifetime is less. So obviously the people used to replace it more frequently, or it gets defective, or it goes it will not work very often frequently. So one way used to go for the energy efficient thing, and in that I'm not sure how to address this query, like how to prevent this second hand one. So what we are doing for many of the organizations, while we are going for the replacement or retrofitting of the existing one with energy efficient one, so we also take back the conventional or the inefficient ones, and we ensure that it is not recycled. So that we take it as a nominal price, and then we dispose it as scrap. So that is what we contribute. So that's what we do for organizations. And initially, when we started this LED bulb program, it all started with that it has to be replaced with their old bulbs. So, but then like in Andhra, that's what we did. So they have to replace, they have to bring back their old bulb, and new LED bulbs will be given. That is how it all started. But due to some operational or various practical difficulties, then we have to stop that. Because of the program was conducted remote. So that was the one thing which we were doing.
So this is something we'd like to hear your thoughts on, or maybe if any of the panelists want to ask him, because I know you're all waiting for him, that what would you like to tell the consumers here about availing, or how can they gain from ESL being there? What is in it for a consumer to look up to ESL for?
So this is about consumer financing, right? So
you can go beyond consumer financing also. I just put it here as a seed for creating this conversation. If there are other things you are doing, please feel free to talk about it.
Yeah, so as I was telling about, it's about lighting, and I think many of you must be aware of that one. And in some parts of the country already we have implemented in it as on a monthly payment basis. So that is, once the government agrees it, then it will be like once you buy the fans or tube lights or these bulbs, it will be included in your electricity bill, and which can be paid over a period of some 10 months or 12 months, like that. So once that is, it is based on the government. So otherwise we do not have any other possibility or other access to get it paid over a month, over a period of time. So in even now also it's going on in Andhra Pradesh, in Gujarat, in various states where, or even in Pondicherry, where it is the government is paying over a period of 10 years, and the people have purchased at a very, very low cost. So that is on the consumer financing. Otherwise, even now we are also implementing this super efficient air conditioning program, which is really through online mode. So there is a portal called ESL Mart, where super efficient air conditioners or 5-star inverted air conditioners are available at a very nominal price when compared with the market. So now we are yet to start that in a full swing, because this is not the right time. Maybe by end of January or February it will we will try to advertise it so that it reaches the masses. So whereas that the price, I can say that it's around 41,000, 5-star inverted AC, whereas the market price will be around 46 or 47,000 even on a conservative basis. So that is also there is an option for EMI, so where everybody can go for it. So it will be delivered to your place of choice, and so you need not to go there and purchase on call. So the electrician will come to your home for fixing it. And already, so apart from this air conditioner, we already have this fans and the tube lights. So there are, I'm aware that many people will complain that
this whole thing.
So
people do have a way.
Yeah, no, I'm also puzzled by this, because I think the question is framed in a way. So if for instance, if you have taken any EMI scheme, right, then the answer will be have a bill. If you bought it on a credit card and paid it, then you have a bill. So I think it's not talking about efficiency.
Directly reflecting.
It's talking about consumer finance.
Sure, I think I got it. Apologies for that. So we were on a question session. So if there are more questions for the panelists as well as Mr. Ramesh, I think we have time for about a couple of questions. Then we'll stop.
So you mentioned about how India could have the similar higher living standards by almost doubling the energy use per capita. The climate change crisis is staring at us in the face. Are there ways to not do that? Can we not have to double that?
Actually, here you can have your cake and eat it too. We have to look at a point that Vishnu made, and he mentioned it in passing, this entire issue of sector coupling, and I'll tell you what it really means. If you really want to finally reduce
carbon emissions worldwide, and let's talk about India for a moment, in India, then you have to really look at deep decarbonization on both sides of the energy equation. On the supply side, clearly, by moving away from coal, moving away from oil, moving away from gas, and moving into renewable energy. That is well known and discussed. But actually, if you think about it, more carbon is emitted on the demand side than on the supply side. We use coal in industry, we use oil in industry, we use gas at homes, etc., firewood, etc. So there's a lot more carbon emissions coming on the demand side. So we have to have deep decarbonization on the demand side. In other words, we will have to now move in a very big way of the hydrogen economy. Because if you have to replace coal and oil as a heating fluid, then you have to use synthetic fuels, and synthetic fuels have to come from hydrogen. So we have to get into that particular area. We'll also have to look at using more renewables on a decentralized basis on the customer side of the meter. And if you do both together, and this takes time, it's not going to happen in 10 years or 20 years, but 2040, 2050, we ought to be well on our way. The only country which is beginning to think seriously about decarbonization on both sides through sector coupling is Germany. We can learn from the Germans. Then in that case, you can have a per capita consumption of 2000 kilowatt hours and have a standard of living of the United States or anywhere else if you do that. But there are a lot of ifs and buts. The devil is in the details. One last point, and it continues on this. We talked about energy and water. You know, you save water, you save energy, right there. In Chennai, you know, you save a lot of water through whatever measures, you're saving energy. I thought I should let you know that another state which is suffering through a lot of water problems in the United States is California. And the person responsible for water management and conservation in California, I had a chance to talk to him. And he said something very interesting. He said, and I think it's applicable to some of our Indian states too, he said more energy was saved through water management and conservation in California than all the other energy efficiency programs put together. And California has a very vigorous program on energy conservation in the industrial sector and in the domestic sector. I suspect that in our large agricultural states, it may be possible that we could save a lot more energy, both electricity as well as diesel, etc., than in any other sector through water management and conservation. So that's one thing. But we need to now look at other points of coupling. You know, the point that Bharat made, that we have to move energy from the electricity department out of the electricity department, so to say. In fact, I used to often say in the past that you need to move efficiency from the center to the states, because at that time everything was being discussed in Delhi. But now we have to go one step further and move energy out of the electricity department. So energy, water we have already discussed. Energy health is another point where we can look. There's an interesting study going on in Stanford which says that the cognitive ability of people improves with the environment around them, and the cognitive ability of people with the environment around them, and can be directly linked to energy efficiency. So your ability to take decisions, your ability to operate as a human being goes up remarkably higher if you're in an energy efficient environment. We need to make those kind of connections here. Energy efficiency and national security, that connection has been made. You know, that's done all the time. So at the macro level, we are making some connections, but at the micro level, energy health, energy cognitive ability through efficiency needs to be established. Well, all these have to be now, whatever we have been discussing needs to be researched a little more and then spread and disseminated. It doesn't take rocket science to do it. You know, I've been looking at the Alliance for Energy Efficient Economy, an entity that I helped set up in India. We modeled ourselves after the American Council for Energy Efficient Economy. They have a bunch of about 70, 80 people. When they started in 1988, I was meeting with them quite often at the World Bank. They had only 4 people. Now they have about 100 people. What do? They basically talk the same thing that we are talking about, but they have evidence to back it up, facts to back it up. All we need to do is develop those facts and back it up and go out and reach out. That's why these centers of excellence, etc., that we just discussed, make sense. We are not talking about rocket science. We're just talking about organizing ourselves in order to put efficiency in the right context. If you don't put it in the context, then it will be only an embellishment, it will only be an icing on the cake, it will not be taken seriously. But the fact of the matter is, and I mentioned it time and again, is the first fuel, not the second or third fuel. It is saving more energy than we are getting out of other renewable energy sources. That's the fact of the matter.
I think with that, we'll probably wind up this session. So immense thanks to the speaker and the... Thank you so much. Yeah. Thanks to all of you. Yeah. And thanks to the wonderful audience who... I hope you enjoyed the experience of polling, and I hope you had a lot of takeaway from today's session. Thank you so much. You're free to interact with all of us during the lunchtime.